Hi, you are probably here because you want to figure out how the heck do I build a portfolio as a new writer? If you have searched that, or even if you stumbled across this video, there's an assumption that you know what a portfolio is, but just in case you don't, I'm gonna tell you. So a portfolio is essentially a body of work put together by a writer. So it's all of your writing samples, all the writing that you've done. For those of you who don't know me, you're probably like, well, what does she know and how can she tell me how to do these things? And I can tell you because I have been a content writer for over 13 years now. I write for publications like Essence Magazine, Pop Sugar, The Knot. I write full-time for NerdWallet, and I've been in many other publications. I think it's important to share the knowledge and not gatekeep, which is why I'm creating this channel. Sit tight. I'm going to be uploading lots of tips, ask questions in the comment section, and yeah, I'm gonna keep the content coming. The first step that I have is to start with what you have. Now, while you may not be in any publications yet, that does not stop you from creating your own articles. So step one is to create your own writing samples. And you could do that simply in a Google Doc or a Word doc. Essentially choose a topic that is related to the niche that you would like to potentially get into and just write an article on it. It's even a way, I would say, of potentially manifesting or future journaling. Pretend that you're writing for a publication that is on your wish list and write the best article that you could possibly write. This is going to come helpful when you start pitching, which will be a separate video that I'll create in terms of how to pitch, because they're going to ask you, usually the publications will ask for past work that you've done or sample articles. So at least you'll have one ready to go that you can send to the editor. So yeah, pick a topic for something that you're interested in and write maybe 500 to 1,000 words on that article. Depending on the publication, I feel like the sweet spot is about 750 words, and obviously on the topic as well. But for most basic articles, that is the length that editors look for. So that's your first step. Once you've written 1 or 2 samples of your own, if you're feeling fancy, write 5 or 6. That's your business, as Tabitha Brown would say. The next step would be to start targeting less competitive publications, or do what I like to say as go after low-hanging fruit. Why do I call them low-hanging fruit? Because it might be more easy to get into your local newspaper than it is to get into Vogue magazine as a new writer without a portfolio. You don't want to discourage yourself before you even get started, and that isn't to say that you couldn't get in Vogue in the first try, but sometimes it's nice to work your way up, and that's personally what I did. So start with low-hanging fruit, research publications that aren't as competitive and that are open to new content, and see if you can write an article for them and potentially get you your first byline or your first couple of bylines. Once you have kind of come up with a list of potential publications that you could write for, the next step is to put together some pitches for those publications. Before you can put together a pitch, you need to know what you're going to write about. So sorry, you need to go backwards and do some research. Research the publication, get familiar with it, and come up with potential topics that you could write for them. And then you go ahead and you send them a pitch. I'm going to do a video with more detail about how to send pitches to publications. All right, boom. So we have, fingers crossed, gotten ourselves a byline in a local newspaper or a low-hanging fruit publication. Amazing. Clap for yourself. And the next step is now to start working your way up and trying to get into bigger publications. Now, this is where both your writing samples that you've created on your own and hopefully the bylines that you have gotten in the low-hanging fruit publications come into play, because you're going to use those when you pitch to the larger publications. Same process, study the publication, look at any, interesting story angles that you can come up with and pitch those to the correct editor. Again, more of that in a video to come on pitching. Once you've done that, hopefully with time and consistency, you're able to get into a bigger publication. And look what we're doing, y'all. We are building a portfolio. Important part of a portfolio as well is to have as many samples as possible. And here, when I say as many samples as possible. I mean quality samples. A huge mistake I made when I was first starting out is that I did not have quality samples, and that's a story for another day. I was doing a lot of ghostwriting, and I was churning out articles, and I was writing stuff, to be honest, I wasn't proud of. So when it now came time to pitch to publications I actually wanted to write for, I did not have strong writing samples to show. Make sure you put 100% in your writing samples, or at least the ones that you know that you want to show to the publications that you want to write for. In an ideal world, all of the steps that I've mentioned to you earlier will lead to you having at least a couple of bylines. But sometimes, let's be honest, it takes a while and you're pitching, nobody's responding, and it can get super discouraging. So what do you do then? A tip I will give, or a step that you can add in for yourself, is reaching out to digital marketing agencies. I kind of began my writing career in digital marketing agencies. And what those are is essentially they are agencies who provide content for small or large businesses. And how they do this is they hire freelance writers who churn out content for them, but the only trade-off is usually that you're not going to get a byline. So you're essentially ghostwriting for the digital marketing agencies. The good thing is that you will get experience with writing articles. While editors don't love ghostwritten pieces, they like pieces with your name on it still can be used while you're pitching. So when I first started out, that's actually what I used when I believe got my gig with Pop Sugar. I used articles that I had ghostwritten, and obviously they just trusted that I actually wrote the articles. So it is a way to start and to get you building momentum. And this can especially be helpful if you are trying to become a full-time content writer, because while digital marketing agencies don't pay that much, again, it gives you experience writing, and you can use them when you're pitching to magazines and other publications as well. If you just put in Google digital marketing agency or digital marketing agency freelance writer, you'll probably see some come up. I will warn you, it's been like, 5 years since I worked in a digital marketing agency as a freelancer. The rates are not amazing, but it's better to start from somewhere than nowhere. The next step that I will say can be helpful to add to your playbook is following editors from publications that you want to write for on social media. So again, we are manifesting. We are in our best case scenario. We are building up our portfolio. We're getting the publications of our dreams and laddering and laddering and laddering. And now we want to go for the big, big, big fish. Follow the editors on social media, and actually you could follow them even if you're just starting out, and see what kind of content they're looking for. X, I like to call it Twitter, is a good place for you to look, because editors tend to be on there a lot. And sometimes they're tweeting and they're looking for writers, or they're looking for specific stories that writers can write or tell. And it's a great opportunity for you to get to know the editor, get to know the types of content that they like, and even build a relationship with that editor. Doing this has gotten me writing gigs of my dreams. I will add though, please respect the editor's boundaries in terms of how they want to be communicated with. Some editors will put in their bio flat out, no DMs, no unsolicited emails, whatever the case may be. So, if they say that, I think if you're trying to get in their good books, then you probably want to respect that. Another tip is also don't be so salesy and annoying in their DMs as well. As with every relationship, yes, it is partially transactional, but you also want to come bearing gifts, if that makes sense. So maybe you're resharing their posts often and interacting with their content before you're hopping in their DMs begging for a story all the time. That's my 2 cents. And finally, for my last tip, share your work on social media. I know it can be nerve-wracking, especially as not necessarily a new writer, but a new published writer putting themselves out there. It can be super scary. You might be overthinking about what people are going to think about the piece. Is anyone going to like it or even read it? But honestly, ignore all of that and just hit share. Many of the opportunities I have gotten as a writer have been because I have shared my work. You do not know who is looking, who is watching, who is seeing your bylines, who's going to come across your article. And editors are always looking for good writers and reliable incredible writers. If you are both of those things, sharing your work will give you more visibility. So share it everywhere. Share it on Twitter. I personally share on Instagram, share it wherever, and be proud of yourself. And also know your work does not have to be perfect. You are a writer, which means you are a creative, and our work, the work we do, is often very iterative, and it's almost never perfect or complete, right? Just do your best, share it, and then you'll get better with time. That's all I've got for you guys on how to build a portfolio as a new writer. If you have any questions or I left anything out, feel free to comment, share your thoughts, your experiences. I want to hear from you. And thank you for watching. Please, please, please share with a writer that you know who could benefit from this information, or your friend who told you the other day that I would love to become a writer. Share it with them, share it with your network, and peace.